Hello. I'm going to do a quick reading. This is not going to be a long one for the new moon like I usually do, just because it's kind of hard to read on this energy for a collective without acknowledging so much of my own stuff. In other words, I'm not as clear a channel right now because I'm really in it. I just have to stay offline and keep living my life. But there's a lot of guidance that we can get from the energy right now, so I'm just going to touch on it quickly. The first thing is that it's very, it's a time of really steep highs and then deep lows, which is hard. That's hard to deal with. There's a lot of intensity to both peaks and valleys right now, and I almost am seeing like rapid cycling bipolar, but in the collective energies. So it's jarring. It's a little bit volatile. How do you say that word? It's a little bit volatile, and what I'm sensing is that there's because we all have lots of people in our lives and they all kind of have different ways about them and levels of open-mindedness or ascension or, patterns or toxicity. Everybody's different. It's going to be feeling like the people who are so set in their ways, so far away from ever understanding or opening their mind to, bigger things, seeing corruption, feeling more energy, sensing into collective stuff and the bigger picture, than what's going on immediately directly affecting them in their world. Those people are going to be acting out of shadow right now. Subconscious, pre-programmed beliefs. It's like the script, if the thoughts in the mind are like script being, automatically running a program on a computer, they're going to be responding on autopilot to these shifts in the energy right now. So if that's something that you're recognizing within people around you, then it might be a good time to, like I've been talking about for a couple weeks, reestablish your boundaries. And I wrote a post on that a little while ago, but it can be done with love. It's so very tense to move differently than we've moved before, kind of no matter what, even if it's a good thing. It's just the fundamental thing where we don't like change and the people around us don't like it when we change. But that can be very paradoxically coded and communicated sometimes. You can have people rooting for you, and then when you do what it is that everybody thinks should be done, they still almost like subconsciously maybe don't like it or support it, and then that's all energetic subtext, so you can feel that it's not right, but it's not being said. There's a lot of that type of strangeness going on right now. Then for people who are not in that lowest camp, like people who are just more so too far gone or don't care or not, who knows where they are at and why they're there. Oopsie. That was weird. Good gracious. Get it together. Sorry. Okay. Maybe there are people who are really going through a lot of stuff right now where it's almost like when you start to break your mind open or life starts to tower you and that starts to happen for you and you're accessing a greater perspective on a lot of things, it can either make you feel, this is almost like you have to go through the woods in order to get to the other side. It makes you feel, even though you're merging with something that's greater, like a collective consciousness, it makes you feel even more isolated for a period of time until you can pass through the next threshold where you see that it actually is the next level to accessing more of a wise mind, higher self that's guiding you day in, day out, where you are recognizing in a very namaste fashion yourself in another. You're able to understand what you're responsible for energetically and what you're not responsible for energetically. And when other people do things and it triggers you, you're not blaming them. You're seeing the individual or the ego or the soul within them, just like it's going on within you. And there's this more fluid ability to kind of navigate those spaces. So what I'm seeing right now with this middle group of people that are like in the middle, maybe they have like weeks or days or times of feeling like they're in this spiritually expanded thing, but then they're not fully whatever. They're going to be the people that are a little bit more wild cardy in your space right now. What it could look like is people like popping up out of nowhere, feeling very needy to you, or like maybe that's not how it's presenting, but you feel, if your energy feels pulled on, even if it's not somebody like needy, like asking you for things, it could be somebody coming to want to do something for you or give something to you, but it's still pulling on your energy because maybe subconsciously for them, they want, you know, whatever fix it is that being in your presence gives them. Who knows? So, but then they could also have this kind of higher spiritual understanding where these states and these times with this up and down energy, it can pull in really rapid realizations and clearings of these things that are keeping us, if you're in a camp where you are in that waffleation, where it's like you can't hold the spiritual expansion yet, going back and forth. These types of energies can highlight for the people who are going through that what it is that needs to be released. I've been doing a ton of collective transmutation and a ton of shadow work personally and for the collective. It's really, it's a lot. It's a lot. And so yeah, there's a lot of stuff too that's ramping up to be I'm going to talk about this more, and what I'm going to do is build out some pages on the website that I've created where I don't have to worry about censorship and being flagged on this platform, so that I can just explain everything the way that I want to. That means that the videos here on the YouTube channel are going to become more just energy readings, tarot card readings, and then when I do theory and cultural criticism, whatever, it's going to live there, because there's no point in doing stuff like that if I can't genuinely say what I want to say. So I'll get into that as it pertains to what I'm talking about, but just for this video's purposes, I feel like there's a lot of stuff right now in the environmental energy, the influences, the atmosphere, the quality of things, where it's making it harder for people to, it's almost like pretend there's a little beam that can just, whenever, you know, you're doing good, you're doing great, you're at least moving towards a space of doing better. It's like a little cosmic gremlin waiting around to just beam down self-doubt. But you have to get to that point of feeling good, and then once you get there, it beams it down and it hits you with a little pang of self-doubt. I think that's happening for a lot of people right now, and so if we know that that's happening, then we can unwrite it energetically the second it hits us. It's important to recognize when you're doing fine, or you're having a fine time, or there's this big deviation or split in your day where it was good and now it's bad. Like, what was the changeover? What happened in the middle that made you feel different all of a sudden? I think right now for a lot of sensitive people, you're just going to be picking up on how deeply shifty the energy in the collective is, and therefore the energy in like the people around you. Some of this stuff coming up to be realized and released. And in order to, going back to the idea of like thoughts being a script that's running your actions or your expression of yourself in the world, like on default, what I do if I get hit with like a big thought storm that's like an anxiety beam, and I'm like, I did not feel this way 10 seconds ago. I am going to unwrite it from my energetic reality. Or like I start having fear thoughts, or I start worrying about a probability that has not yet panned out. Here's the thing, when you worry about something that's going to happen in the future, you can also use your mind. This is a Carlos Castaneda quote. He says something like, the power is in what you emphasize. You can emphasize everything. I forget verbatim. You can emphasize everything that is working against you, or you can emphasize how things could go for the positive way. So who's to say? Things that haven't happened to you that you fear, they're on probable timelines or probabilities, but in neutrality, in like the way that we're projecting from the present moment forward, they're no more real than a reality that you can weave together with your imagination of a different outcome or scenario. Those are held equally weighted in the future timelines. And so sometimes we get washed over with these fear trajectories. There's a lot of this purging out in the collective subconscious in the dream space. I've been having some pretty tough dreams. And like, I mean, if you don't get super wrapped around those, if they're just know that when your subconscious purges out dreams that are disturbing or intense for you, then that's doing something. So just let it be. You don't have to strive to understand it. You could. I think what's more logical right now, or not logical, but like intuitively sound right now, is to take record of them, be that journal or recording, and check back in with what you wrote this time in January or February. It's going to make more sense in 6 weeks. So if there's anything that comes in that's like a future fear timeline, or like a horrible dream where you're like, it's like the whole thing where like if a girl dreams that her boyfriend's cheating, she's mad at him in real life. And he's like, what the fuck? It's like that. So if there's anything that's not real, that's affecting you so much that it feels real, or it's changed you, or it's taken you out of your ability to just be like, wait, that isn't real. This is of my mind. This is of probabilities. This is of other people's projections. It's like I'm seeing a silver bullet, but it's like a little cocoon around us. It's like our protection, or like keeping things closer to our body. That could also just be like protecting the self, not being as, maybe watching who you share certain things with right now. Not that they're bad people, not that they don't love you, not that you don't love them, but also maybe they're still human and going through things too. So it's like we want to present things to safe people when we're going through stuff or getting counsel on something. And even if they mean to support what it is we're going through, or hold our secrets tenderly or whatever, they still might not be equipped to do that despite their best efforts and intentions. So the energetic thing that I do is I literally imagine some big godly finger coming down on a keyboard going delete, delete, delete. And whatever was in my mind that started to take me away from my cool, calm center of being like, I'm still here in the present moment. You just remove it from, your thoughts. Like I literally just say delete, delete, cancel, like gone. I'll say that if I'm around people, they don't know what it is that I'm doing, but to put it into words is kind of important. It's the same way where if you were to say, guides or ancestors or angels or whoever you believe in, I need your help. Putting that into words is important. So the biggest point of advice is trying to remain in something of a neutral space while all of these changes are coming through, and maybe not taking radical, drastic action on anything right now, because there's a lot that's settling. Actually, there's not a lot that's settling. There's a lot that's shifting. And there's a lot that's going to be settling again in the next 6 weeks. New moon today, 12/12 portal. We're gonna go on a little adventure, not the biggest one, just a little one. Give me 5. Pop up. Okay, you know what? Go to your bed. Wait, I'll be there in a sec. I'm probably not gonna post very many readings from now until Christmas. I think it's so funny because I'll do these very paradoxical exemplifications of the energy where on the one hand I'm channeling about it, but if I say like, don't get stuck in mental prisons, and I'm literally doing a video that's like an hour and a half of all this rambling about this stuff that I'm processing, or like wounded inner children coming out to play, and then talking about like I'm embodying the problem, but I'm also trying to speak on the guidance. And when that starts to happen, I have to give myself space and just be in it. Another thing that's very interesting, I'll just say this because it feels like it might be relevant to somebody, but I've talked a lot about healing, coping mechanisms, both good and bad, and migrating these urges to need something to fill a void, to things that are not knee-jerk reactions, and they're things that actually soothe you. And well, I've talked a bit about it. I'll be talking more about it. But what's interesting is that like I have kind of a mindfulness tool set that dissolved from being these defined exercises or activities. They just kind of dissolved into the way that I think and conduct myself, because I did it so much, used them so much, or called them to the conscious forefront to help me with pattern interruption so often that they just kind of dissolved into my mind and the way that I think. And it's kind of like, instead of being addicted to anything problematic or unhealthy, I've healed myself, but the addiction is like the artwork or the seeking or the creation. We can get addicted to anything, really. It's all just about dependency. And so I've said this again, but for me, I have this I keep myself in check by reminding myself, like, if I tip into senses of urgency ever around, like, I have to anything, then I know that I'm not in the space of like pure creative needs to let it flow in order for it to come through the way that it needs to. So anyway, I mean, I guess I just want to say thank you to the people who watch the videos and have patience with me as I continue to go through that. But it's kind of for our advice right now as well. Like, sometimes I think we forget that just because, say there's a problematic thing and it's hard to change, and we move it out of our life, and then we live in a new way and we bring something else in, which is good, it's not problematic. Sometimes if we didn't fully eradicate the root of what it is we're seeking for, which is kind of hard to do, we're always evolving, you tend not to knock out an issue completely all at once. It's almost impossible. The underpinnings of that problem might start to affect this new thing and make it problematic over time. I mean, the act of I feel very strange about, well, I've gotten used to it, but I was super, super against having to take up any type of, basically just be responsible for putting myself on the internet and being held accountable for the things that I share and say. I was like, there's just so many weird little aspects to that, and I don't even want to deal with it. But then I sort of got over that, and now there are other parts to it that I'm sorting out, which has led to me like, I'm just gonna migrate it to a third-party site, and trying to let things evolve in our lives right now, and not be so judgmental about those different steps, not deem things good, bad, failure, success, just kind of see them as progression, even if it means taking steps back to move forward. All right, let's get a super mini read. I know that there's certain things that I wanted to share that I didn't. We're gonna get current energy, energy to embrace, energy to release, hidden energy, biggest obstacle. All right, current is the Eight of Pentacles. We're working, focusing, day by day. Yeah, and what I'm getting again is that little energetic gremlin that can beam this like doubt. It could come from a person. It could come from somebody who maybe they're like, yeah, go shine and do your thing and blah, blah, blah. But then once they start seeing you doing it, they're like, well, but not like that. Don't do it like that. Like, there's something within you doing something that's triggering someone else. It's fascinating. Like I said, it's volatile out there right now. Wait. Current energy, energy to embrace, energy to release. So current energy, it's very hard to be in this mode and not have something pop up to threaten to distract us. So energy to embrace is the Queen of Wands. It's kind of just what I was saying, talking about my own projects and endeavors, where if I ever get wrapped into this thing where I'm like, well, how am I going to do this? Should I do this? Maybe like, and I feel like there's something more pressing. I mean, pressure, a lot of that is illusory. and we can get into certain corners where we're feeling very pressured. And the reason why we ended up in that's karmic. The path to get there, that didn't just happen all of a sudden. You're not cornered into something randomly. There was kind of a pinball that guided you there. And so then to notice that, the counterbalance is to understand that you need to smooth it back out into this type of energy that's going to free you from being further stuck and cornered into that space of pressure. It's not letting yourself off the hook. It does involve accountability. With King and Queen of Wands, fire energy, fire sign energy, pride, but there is a form and an aspect of pride that is not egotistical and corrupt. Pride, it's okay to be proud. And it's important to strive to act in a way that you could be proud of, or that you could imagine anybody seeing you, it's the concept of integrity, which is for some reason kind of hard to come by in today's world, you know what I mean? So what we're embracing is just the fact that we are making decisions that feel like the right thing for us, regardless of who is watching or trying to influence that process. Our energy to release is the Fool. Okay, so I think that what's happened here is that because there's so much feedback, static, I don't even want to say that because I don't think a lot of people, who knows? I know that I have sensitive people who have like amazing gifts. Okay, I'll talk to so if static and feedback, if you're somebody who feels collective energies, like if you go out or if, very readily and all the time, then it's going to feel like static in the collective right now. If that's not really your situation, or you're not as sensitive as that, then you're going to feel like there's little static moments popping up in your life, where if your days were like this nice song coming out of the radio without any little glitches, it's not going to be like that. It's going to have that like the dial is calibrating. So with releasing the Fool, with releasing the Fool, we're saying, okay, the frequency is stabling out a little bit more, and it's like the distance between, we're going to assume that in order to progress, this foot's going to come down at some point. It's going to go forward and he's going to keep going. The static it's like a pendulum coming down. That's the time from now until the end of December. It's like, it's not a leap of faith, not a new beginning, but we're having this like micro wormhole open up in a big karmic clearing and purging of all this stuff. Also, just be aware of a lot of bodily physical sensations that are manifestations of how the energy is moving with and around your body right now. I personally wake up and do a 2-minute plank every morning because it's hard to do. And in the winter, like, it just warms me up. It's hard not to get like warm. And I don't like waking, like, of course I shower and stuff, but it's just a practice of mine. And certain things, even like, that's 2 minutes of my day. I know, like, you could do 30 seconds, you could do 15 seconds. Consciously clenching and then releasing muscles, or consciously making movements, like completely, like if I were to move my head on my neck, on top of my shoulders, completely this way, as far as I can go, ever so slowly. Just like people talk about somatic movements or like ecstatic dance, all these big things. But right now, I'm sensing that there's this need to also just make small moves. But like, when do you ever fully turn your neck completely this way, completely that way, completely back? I can't even do that because my neck hurts so bad. Because I need to stretch it out and just calibrate myself a little bit. In the hidden energy, we have the sun. Okay, so I know, because I can feel it, and I'm sure you can too, it doesn't feel like the best of times, but there's still this anticipatory thing with the Fool that is kind of coming in and being able to call upon Queen of Wands energy. It's not like the most, I don't want to say it's hard times. It could be, it kind of is. I mean, it always is. It's always okay. It's always hard. It's just, there's so much that I called us creatures of contradiction last week in a driving video, which is even more ironic because I feel like I was epitomizing certain things without even realizing it. And I'm like, I need to stop recording and meditate. There's this paradoxical energy where it does take certain levels of rock bottomness or release or, you know, not pushing away certain things that we might be remembering. Like if somebody can't fully remember something in the way that it happened, maybe they're trying to absolve themselves of any blame for something when they really did actually kind of F up and they need to apologize or something. If they're not acknowledging of that, it will change the way that they can go forward. And so if you have something that comes back up and you're like shoving it away, then we're not able to integrate and realize what it is that still tethers back to that moment that's keeping you stuck. It's like one little more, well, I'm seeing cans on the back of a just married car. We want to kind of set those free. You don't want the jingle jangle on the back. It's weighing you down from being able to ascend to your highest timeline. So setting free these things, like we may feel right now like we're fed up with certain lessons or people or things that we just can't seem to transcend out of, even karmic ways of thinking that hold yourself stuck. We're like, why is this still a thing for me? When you get frustrated at the fact that it's still a thing for you, that's not helping at all either, you know, in as far as getting further and further away from the centered place where answers will come. There's this severe amount of temperance, which is a card we haven't seen in weeks, by the way. Severe amount of temperance and patience and ability to tolerate the discomfort that's happening right now, and having a keen eye around when these things might come up where it's like, oh, maybe it's not just my self-punishing tendency to remind myself of everything I've ever done wrong. Maybe my psyche wants me to accept this and let it go. Maybe that can be done in a different way. Maybe that's going to feel different than I thought it would. You know, like sometimes we protect ourselves from integrating and releasing certain things because we think we're having to accept that it compromises something about our ego's identity that we thought we were. That's never the case. All of these things keep us from being what we can be, the best self that we can be. We think that we're putting certain things away because we're protecting that best self. But if we can accept that we're never ever going to become it, because it's the process of enjoying becoming an ever evolving better self, not to do anything other than experience how that can go for you and then consciously create how you want it to go. There's just a lot that we have to be tolerant of. It's hard to let it go, but we're watching ourselves be better at that right now. So the sun and the hidden energy is like, don't forget that this is fun, that this is life, that life is beautiful, that there are peaks and valleys, that it is intense right now. But even if, you know, who knows? I don't know. The biggest obstacle is this Nine of Wands. So again, I think that there's this defensiveness, but what I'm getting is like, and I'll take a clarifier from the bottom of the deck. Okay, what is it? Yeah, it's the Star. Okay. So we're working day in, day out. There's a lot of little floating distractions, and tensegrity. Tensegrity is like that floating concept it's almost like a mechanical engineering illusion or feat, where you can have like a table and it's like suspended. It's like a floating surface because it pulls down, but it like pulls up with like a chain. It's like a suspension mechanism, tensegrity. It's almost like a 0G defying the realm of possibility through careful, balanced mechanics. We're making our way through this passage right now with a level of, gravity defying ability, but that's why it feels like so much pressure. Okay. So there's a defensiveness, and it's about the wish fulfillment. That's still there. That's still here. That's still coming. How do I know? Because of all of these good, friends and omens that we've been walking with throughout this passage, reminding us of certain themes about the self, the ego, hard work, what we have been protecting or do protect without knowing it, how that indicates where we've been defensive. Look at that. Cut the deck. 10 of Cups. You see, all of the same stuff is still here. It's just that it's in hidden energy right now. And the obstacle is being able to assume this protective energy over the things that it would behoove us to be protective of. How are you going to know? It's the things that bring you the peace. Peace isn't as exhilarating as anything toxic, but that's good as long as you can start to deprogram yourself from needing the rush of adrenaline and these types of circuits that were, chemically, our brain chemicals like certain passages of toxicity if you haven't experienced healthy stasis. I've struggled with this for a long time. One of my biggest issues was misconfusing. I misunderstood stability for boredom when I didn't have certain dynamics in relationships anymore. I was like, well, this isn't blank enough. Something's missing. No, it was my own, existential void. It was just on blast in the relationship. I was like, I'm realizing that I don't like peace and stability. Well, why would I say that? There's something else going on, So these are the times when we're in those kinds of conundrums. And it's hard. It's really hard, but again, we can let it be just the distance between this step and the next foot going down, okay? So try to remain positive. The more you can reestablish and reaffirm your self-worth to yourself, skunk spirit coming back to say, know your worth. I don't know what people have done to you. I don't know what you have done to others, but you are worthwhile. And look at Ace of Cups. There's just a lot. I think I've cried every day for a week. Who knows? Oh, no. That's not right. I'd like to just get the biggest advice, okay, for people right now. I'm going to shuffle so you can see. Biggest advice, please. I'm going to take, that came out immediately. Don't cry. Don't shed a tear. 5 of Cups. Here we go. 2 other cards fell out with this, all right? So I said, what's the biggest advice? If we're compelled to lay down and curl up and hide, 4 of Cups came out right after that. 5 of Cups, 4 of Cups. So what we can get from that is it's saying, take a step back. Lift your head up. You don't have to go anywhere. Just realize that, it's also like when a child cries really hard and then they're empty, and they cried it all out and then they just kind of sit there and they're kind of just like empty. Doesn't mean everything's better. It doesn't mean anything's changed, except they're free of that kind of emotional purge. And a lot of people who are smart will say, don't make a decision, especially a weighty decision of high value, when you're emotionally activated or charged up, right? We make bad decisions when we're angry. So the biggest advice is to remember that it's okay to feel feelings, but there's also a different way to navigate that space where you can remain something of an active, compassionate observer to your own experience. And while the Fool is that release position, because we're not really taking that step or that leap of faith, we're more so letting that foot, again, I called it a pendulum because if you think about it, once you're already like in stride, if he's moving somewhere, it's not going to be like the foot needs to get like shoveled up and like picked up. Like there's already this momentum to it. So it's, again, with the tensegrity concept and like force but release at the same time, it's a new way of moving. It feels very foreign to a lot of people who haven't been in this space before. Excuse me. So if you lift up the foot in order to take that big step forward, you're actually just releasing. Like I'll show you. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get up. Okay. So if I've got my foot like back here, I'm putting force to keep it back here. If I let go, if I release, then my foot, it just naturally falls down. That's what we're doing. We're releasing to let something happen naturally even though from the outside it looks like us taking a big step forward, that's already underway, and it involves a release in order to let that motion complete. But in the meantime, 3 to 6 weeks is the passage of time that I'm being given. So it's going to be a little rockety for a little while, but don't for a second think that there aren't going to be, that's just this curtain of collective energy. The more you can come into your own space, like I move through things pretty quickly and in like real time. I mean, everybody does, but there's layers of transparency within your aura and your consciousness that let those things come in, like, over the course of 4 days or like 30 minutes. I feel like I'm moving through it, but I think that it's going to be this cloud hanging over us. Once we start to identify it, it's like a new thing at play, and you'll be like, there it is, there it is. You won't be as wrapped up in it, right? You'll be able to kind of be sitting back in that hidden energy saying, the sun is what I'm attaching myself to. The star, the 10 of cups, the artist. Whenever I get emotionally overwhelmed, I go from 5 to 4. I take a step back. What's the incoming energy? Let's get a card for like the Christmas time and like the actual end of the year, because I don't know. I just saw the Tower card, but I don't think that's right. Nice. It's the Queen of Pentacles and the Ace of Swords. I'm going to get top and bottom to clarify that. It's the Emperor and the Page of Pentacles. I mean, we like all of it. It's just more stable, and it's out of, yeah. Okay, so the hazy cloud of volatility and kind of people, the ability to witness people in your life going through these energies in different ways, and then having that affect you and kind of feeling shaken up, needing to kind of acknowledge certain things that we literally do need to release and acknowledge in order to reassume the proper integrity that our soul knows. You know deep down, it's okay. It's okay to admit things that we haven't done well or that we need to do differently. By the way, that's not the type of thing that I'm saying you would go delete to, in your mind. I'm just saying if you start to get on to some type of, because these thoughts are sneaky, right? They'll float in and you hop on this spaceship, and before you know it, you're over in a different galaxy of anxiety, thinking, and you've churned out all of this energetic matter, because thoughts are things that you don't want it. You don't like it. It's not real. It's just a worry ship. It's just a worry train, and you got carried away with it. That's the type of thing that I say, as soon as you can realize that and put a stop to it, the better. There's a way to consider possibilities and make practical plans in the way of preparation and, realistic, practical preparation or whatever you need to do in your life that isn't so fueled with this woe is me type stuff. So we're going to get a starseed oracle, and then I'm going to get one animal. I'm not going to read from the animal, but I am going to read from the starseed. I just want one card, and I keep getting bunches of them. There she is. No way. It's ridiculous. I was singing this song yesterday. It's a Florence and the Machine song, You Got the Love. I love Florence. Oh my God, I saw her in concert one time, and I was having a great time. I was having a good time that day, and I ended up finding myself at her feet, at Miss Florence's feet in the front row, and she was wearing a satin pantsuit, this color, which is the color of my summer. This cobalt has been fueling everything I do, healing my knees, using my voice, all these things. She was wearing a silky satin pantsuit that was that color, and she sang this song. Hadarian energy, codependency, boundaries. Okay, I'm gonna read from this. Do you see all these shades of blurry boundaries? It's like people, I don't like it. I'll talk about this at some point. I see all of the people who were on Titanic after the boat goes down and they're all in the water. A lot of people in life are floundering in that way right now and they don't know it. So you might be the life raft and you might be like, I'm no more, but everyone's like, I'm no more on stable raft than you are. But people don't know that. It's that really like, it's a horrible thing, like what people do when they need to survive. And it's confusing because they could be the people that we love the most or the people that have loved us the most, but they're trying to push us under somehow. Oh, Lordy. I'm in a weird, I don't have all my stuff, so I can't put it up, sorry. Oh, I'm reading the wrong one. I've never pulled this card before. Come on. I'm sorry. What's so funny is that I woke up this morning, I got a lot of messages, and then I was moved to do a grounding exercise for myself and for other people. And I wanted to extend that in some type of 30-second, come into your body, chakra clearing. I was going to do that. And I have offered the opposite energy. I'm sorry. I hope that, you know what I'll do? After I read this card, I'll do a little light language transmission with my hands. I'll talk about it more in the future, so I'm not going to explain it now. You can watch, you can leave. You can do as you will. I would look, just see what it is, see how it makes you feel. It's something that has been another thing that's just coming online more for me recently, so it's something I'm doing more. And what it is a transmission of energy that can help you move through these things. But I'm going to read the card first, okay? And I'll do some type of grounding, chakra clearing, healing soon. Compensate. No, it's not worth it. Okay. The Hadarians are believed to be beacons of pure, divine, unconditional love who see love in all people and situations. As a result, they can find it hard to have boundaried, interdependent, healthy relationships because they only see the unconditional nature of those they meet. The lovers of the cosmos, they dive in fast. They're here to learn how to love while in a separate body, to learn to love self first and then establish healthy relationships with others. To remember that the love they seek is already within them, that they truly do have the love all on their own. The message of this card is to review the ways you may need to establish healthier boundaries. Perhaps you're in a codependent relationship in which you may be losing your sense of self. It's common for starseeds to dive into relationships, particularly with those who feel safe and familiar at a soul level. Perhaps you're in a relationship in which you give more than you receive, or perhaps there's a certain volatility. I said that word so many times today. You're always unsure where you stand. This card is assigned to do a relationship review and see what energetic agreements you've made consciously or unconsciously. To acknowledge if there are relationships in which you feel anxious or powerless, in which you don't feel like it's safe to relax and just be you. To assess if there are any places of inadequacy that you've used a relationship to soothe and cover up. So it can be a human-to-human relationship, or it could be a relationship to a part of yourself. It could be a relationship to one of your parents or primary, masculine, feminine role model, core wounds or core programming. Or it could be a relationship to a habit or an unhealthy thing that you do or have done for a long time. I want to share something really quickly. I had somebody in my life at one point who was a deep, deep karmic bond, soul connection. And I thought, being me, that this person was somebody that I was meant to be around because, in fact, we experienced, this person and I, we had a shared vision one time where I shared a vision that I had. This person had described, well, and here's the thing, you'll be like, well, they just, don't, basically we were sleeping and we had the same dream. I'll say that. But it wasn't sleeping. I wasn't asleep. I get visions when I'm in that, pre-sleep or just woken up, meditative state. It was like that. And I was it was like catacombs level ancient history underneath some type of church, monks in the back corridor that had torches lighting it. I was in some place. and there were these men with cloaks on, and I remember going down the hall, and there was something that was going to be happening that night, and I wanted to stop it. And this guy who I knew who I used to be connected to in this life, he woke up and he told me about his dream, and he was there too, but he was in a different part of the building. Like, I knew it in my core. And there was a couple other phenomenon during this connection where I was like, there's something here, past lifey. But it's like, we had some pretty deep karma to resolve that had a lot more to do with his learning than me. And I was just identifying of the fact that there was a connection there. Just because there's a connection there, or there's like uncanny something, this and that, doesn't mean it's good. I mean, it is good because it's going to help you realize something. It's going to help you stop doing something. It's going to help you evolve. It's going to help you avoid people like that in the future. Or for me, it's going to help me know that everybody I feel a connection with, it doesn't mean it's this kind of connection. Doesn't mean, but to be wary of that. Like, maybe we have some kind of, trauma bond or thing going on. And I, looking back on that now, that was a person too. I started seeing, I'm clairvoyant with the visions, but I started seeing orbs of light to the point where my cat, my dog, they noticed them. Blue orbs of light in my, like Archangel Michael and certain angels were coming in to tell me to get away from this person because he ended up hurting me pretty badly. And maybe that could have been avoided, and I was like, ooh, the stars are aligning. It's magical. But I also knew, like, they were, never have I seen orbs of light floating around in my apartment that my cat was chasing. It was when I was around this guy, and it was because there was a pretty deep karmic blow up that happened between us in this life. But if there's somebody that you've been walking lifetimes with for thousands and thousands of years, maybe you catch him every 800th one, you might have a small interaction in this world, but it could have serious karmic unravels throughout all the time that's ever been. If you've walked and had lots of lives with a certain person, there's a lot that's built up between you. So sometimes we can have these inconsequential seeming things, or maybe to the outsider, they'd be like, well, you didn't even know him for that long. You didn't, whatever the judgment is from the outside, there could be a lot more going on. And, parties are not always aware of that. I think in most cases, both parties are kind of unaware of it. Sometimes one party is aware of it and the other one becomes aware of it, or they never know. I personally know that experience from his side of it, I opened him up to a lot of things spiritually that he had never experienced before. I do that for a lot of people because my energy, it's hard to be around it and not be activated. If you're activatable, if you're not completely shut down, All right, so time for beginner mind. We have porcupine spirit, 48, and we have lion. Nice to see you again. It says, be generous of spirit. Time for beginner mind. Yeah, what I'm getting loud and clear off of this one, again, with that tensegrity, that push and pull, the chaos, but also needing to kind of like take a step back and just go into a space of calm to self-soothe. There's something about our boundaries where there's going to be this big liberation inside that we can feel when we're like, oh, I can still be there for people without doing these things. I can still love people in my life and be there without doing these things. We realized that maybe we had some slightly, maybe warped definitions of how something needs to look in order for it to be right, in order for it to be true. And when it's saying be generous of spirit, like I can put up boundaries against somebody and then feel very, wish them well, genuinely. Beginner mind is like, see, genuinely, I'm sorry I'm so redundant and wired today. Genuinely key into what people say, what the things that people say mean, why they might be saying that, how it makes you feel, what you would like as a result of what they've said, how you genuinely feel, and then what you can say that honors them, that's, you know, still kind somehow, but it's alleviating any overage that you gave this person when you didn't know any better, or gave this situation, or gave this set of beliefs that doesn't really stack up anymore, doesn't really make sense anymore. For example, when I talk to people about non-physical beings, or like the process of feeding your, like manifestation, the process of feeding your intention into a system and knowing, like ordering at a restaurant, it is done. I placed my order. Now I will wait for it to arrive, and I will stay happy and high vibrational while that happens. People don't believe in that. It's like, okay, so you don't believe that there's something invisible that's listening to your every move, capable of delivering exactly a reflection of what you have input into the system? Like the phone, and the fact that you don't even have to speak something into the air with your words. You can think something and you will get a targeted ad about it at this point. Try it. I trial it all the time. Sometimes I'm like, I'll be walking around cleaning and I'll just be like saying words just to see how long it takes for my phone to start advertising it to me. That is based on frequency. It's invisible. The phone, it's like magic. It's what we would have considered magic 20, 30 years ago. There are crystals in the phone that makes the processor work, you know? Angels and prayer and manifestation and the movement of energy and these hermetic principles and laws of the universe that are very cause and effect. That's also frequency. It's also invisible. It's no less real. All right, I'm going to cut the deck for some reason and just show you this card. Yeah. What's beneath it? Working with others, coming together, taking yourself out of this dejected space. Now, this is like in a little bit of an opposition to what I was saying with like 5 of Cups down to 4 of Cups, just to rein it in and give yourself the space to contemplate and sort through the emotions that might come up while we're releasing certain things. You need to be alone truly, you know, and not bounce ideas off of people for just a little bit to make sure that you're being honest with yourself. Because if you go to workshop an idea with somebody else and you don't give them the whole truth, you know, or you leave out a couple details because you know that they would make them say something else, don't do that. Why would you do that? You're only hurting yourself when you do that. So there's like a, you know, the need to 4 of Cups it and take some time out, but then if that goes on for too long, I see it as going back up into a 5 of Swords, but it's again, it's not necessarily that productive. He's seeing himself as being against others or alone or different than others. And I talked about that at the beginning of this reading by talking about like 3D, what's happening in the physical world, 4D, where you can conceive of things outside of them, 5D, where you're, you know, he rejoins the collective because he sees that thinking in these ways, breaking down these things, again, it doesn't mean that there's not something, it's not pushing you further away from what you want. It's what you need to strike down in order to be able to re-immerse yourself with others and all the beautiful, happy major arcanas and good cards that we've been seeing for weeks. It's really just getting, I saw a conga line of people at a wedding and they were going through a maze and it started getting really wonky. It's kind of where we're at here at the end of the December weeks and passage, but I just genuinely, I wanted to, 10 of Swords at the bottom. I just wanted to share that. I just wanted to share that and just like be totally honest about the fact that I've been overwhelmed with the energy. Hopefully people knowing some of the things that I said in the video can hopefully help you feel, you know, a little less crazy or a little less like something is wrong, because it isn't. It's going to be okay. Because a lot of the times when we perceive things as wrong or falling apart, it's really just order within the universe helping us, even if something doesn't work out this time or the way that it is that we wanted it to. Life doesn't stop, you know, it keeps going. So it might give way to something that is even more suited for you or to you in the future. All right, I'm gonna put the meaning of this rune in the description box. So it's what we can think about right now. Okay. All right, everybody, be safe and well and drink a lot of water.